Lesson 3 by Chess Achieves. In this lesson, we'll review how all of the pieces capture. To help clarify, movement is to an empty square. Capture involves taking one of your opponent's pieces. You cannot capture your own pieces in chess. So in the example shown here, the white pawn on the c5 square has the choice of capturing either the black queen or the black pawn. Notice that a pawn cannot capture straight ahead. It moves straight ahead, but it captures forward diagonally. It cannot capture side to side or capture backwards. It can only capture the pieces that are in front of it diagonally. While the pawn captures differently than how it moves, all the other pieces capture the same way that they move. In the example shown here, the white knight has a choice of moving to 6 empty squares, but it also has the choice of capturing on 2 of the squares, capturing either the rook or the pawn. In this case, it would be wiser to capture the rook, as it's a more valuable piece than the pawn. Bishops also capture the same way that they move. In this example, the white bishop has a choice of 7 empty squares to move to, or it could capture the black knight or black pawn. In this example, it would make the most sense to capture the black knight, as it's more valuable than the black pawn. In this example, we see the white rook is attacking 2 of black's pieces. It has the option of going to one of the 8 empty squares, or it could capture the black rook or the black knight. In this particular example, the white rook should capture the black rook, as the black rook is more valuable than the black knight. The queen shows how powerful of a piece it is in this example. While the queen has a high number of squares it can move to, it also is reaching across the board, attacking 3 different pawns at the same time. The most threatening pawn in this example is the one that's on c2. If it's able to make it to the c1 square, it gets something called a promotion that we'll discuss in a future lesson. But that's the square that the queen should capture on this particular turn. Throughout the course of the game, opportunities will arrive for you to capture pieces. In this simple example shown here, the white army has the opportunity to capture a piece. Take a moment to look at the board and see which piece could the white army capture. Hopefully you've noticed that the knight could capture the pawn on the e5 square in the middle of the board. The white army should go ahead and capture this free piece, as center pawns are very powerful, and removing your opponent's center pawns would be to the advantage of the white army in this example. So to continue with this example, the knight has now captured the pawn on the e5 square. And we say that was a free piece. The reason we call it a free piece is because now it's the black army's turn, and he does not have a way to capture the knight that took his piece, nor does he have a way to capture any of white pieces to recover the material he just lost. This material disadvantage for the black army aids white in trying to win the game. While it doesn't guarantee a win just because he's up a pawn, it does help him towards his goal of checkmating his opponent's king. Care should be taken to avoid giving away any free pieces. Generally, developing pieces at the beginning of the game makes a lot of sense. You want to try to get your major pieces in towards the middle of the board to aid you in development and controlling space. In this particular example, the black army continued its development but neglected to see the white army had an attack on the knight on the c6 square. The bishop had the knight pinned, and the pawn moved forward to attack the knight. It's now the White Army's turn. Should the White Army capture with the pawn on the d5 square, or the bishop on the b5 square to capture the Black Knight on c6? It makes the most sense here to capture with the pawn, as pawns capture diagonally. The pawn can capture the knight. If the other pawn takes back, it was considered a good trade of pieces, an exchange of pieces, as a pawn is not worth as much as a knight. To recap from today, all the pieces capture the same way that they move except for pawns. Pawns move straight ahead, but they capture diagonally, only one square away diagonally from its position that it's in. It cannot capture straight ahead. Pawns are the only piece that have a different movement pattern and capture pattern. Care should be taken throughout the game to avoid giving away pieces for free. Free pieces, while it won't cost you the game, can enhance your opponent's position and give them greater opportunities to control space, which will most likely lead to more wins for